Okay, so today I'm going to solve a Leetcode problem. It's an array problem categorized as the easy level called Richest Customer Wealth. So, first thing first is always read through and just understand what the problem is asking you to do and knowing what the input's going to be and what your output is going to be. So, I sometimes find, like, maybe this is just me, but sometimes I find the descriptions a little confusing, but the explanations do kind of break it down for me. So I can see here that I'm going to be outputting the customer who has the most wealth, which is each one of these arrays within the entire accounts array is a customer. And I'm going to need to sum up this array and output whichever one is the highest. So in this example, this customer with riches 1, 2, and 3, which is a total of 6, and this customer with 3, 2, 1 also has a wealth of 6. So because it's equal here, we can see that you just output 6. And then in example 2, customer 1 has 6, customer 2 has 10, and customer 3 has 8. So we want to output 10 here. We can see that pretty cut and dry. That's the highest. And then here, we're going to output, 17. So the first thing that I want to be able to do is access each customer in here. So I'm going to start with my for loop. I always do for loops, just a preference. So while let I equals 0, starting from the beginning of the array, while I is less than accounts dot length, increment by 1. Okay, so I know that here, if I were to console log just what it is that I'm looping through, it works for me if I can visualize, because I'm a visual person, that's how I learn. If I can visualize that's not what I want to do. What it is that like each step is doing. So my first loop here, let's run this through. Let's run this and see the standard output here. My test case is 1, 2, 3. So in this loop here, it's each account's I is going to be an array. And I know that for me to get the sum, I'm going to have to drill into this array as well so that I can get each individual number. So I'm going to do a nested loop. So within here, I'm going to do we'll just do j equals 0 because we'll start at the beginning of that array, while j is less than accounts I dot length. Why is it yelling at me? Oh, it's because it's not done yet. And then we'll just increment j. Oh, because I didn't spell accounts right. Okay. So again, I'm going to console log just to refresh my memory or just to show you what it is that you're accessing within this loop. So if we do accounts I and ij, we should see in here that it's going to log 1 then it's going to loop again, and it's going to log 2, and then again, it's going to log 3. If everything is right, that's, yep, okay, so 1, 2, and 3. And then here in test case 2, you can see it's logging through 1, 5, 7, 3, 3, and 5. Okay, so that is where we are now. So the next step that we want to do, now that we have drilled in enough that we have access to these elements, we want to add them up. So we want a way to keep a running total, and we're going to want to hold that in a variable, and I'm going to call that variable sum. So outside of these loops, I'm going to just create this variable called sum, and we want to just give it a value of 0. So here we're going to do sum equals, we're going to take the current sum, 0, and add accounts accounts I and J, which is that individual element. So basically it's going to look like 0 equals 0 plus this account, right? So let's say we're doing test case 1. It's going to do plus 1. Okay, and so then when it loops through again, we know that our sum is 1. So second loop here, right? So 1 equals 1 plus this next element, 2. And then when it loops again, remember our sum is now 2. So it's going to do 2 plus 3. So then by the very end of this, the sum is going to be 6. Okay, so again, I just want to check that I'm doing this properly. So I'm going to log sum, and I should see my sum to be 6. And okay, well, I put the console log within here, so it's going to log every time it loops. So the first time it goes through, it's going to be 0 plus 1. The second time it loops through, it's going to be 1 and 2, which is a total of 3. And then the third time it loops through, it's going to be at 6. So, all right, so we know that that's working properly. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is a conditional statement, because we're keeping a running count of the sum, but we need to keep a running count of the maximum wealth. So let's create a variable called, we'll just call it max sum, and we'll leave that at 0. Maximum. First time we go through the loop, our sum is going to be 1, and our maximum sum is 0. So in our conditional, we're going to say if the maximum wealth is less than the sum, then the sum needs to be this. So we're going to make this 1. If we loop through again and we get 3, our sum is 3, and our maximum sum is smaller than it, then we need to change that to be 3. If we loop through and the sum is 2, obviously we're not going to change it, and we're just going to continue. So we're going to do this outside of our nested loop, but still inside our loop that loops through the entire array. So every time we exit and we get our running count, we're going to check, is my sum greater than my max sum? Because if it is, then my max sum should be my sum. So that's going to handle the running count, and the max sum, of course, is the maximum wealth. Now, every time we leave this loop, though, and we've already done our check and we've already set the max sum, we need to clear this and we need to go back to 0. So now our sum is 0. And then once we handle all of that, we're going to return the max sum because that's what the output is looking for. So let's test this out. Let's do our test cases. I changed that just to be a little easier. Let's run that through. Let's make sure that works. Oh, nope. Probably because I need a comma there. Okay, so it's outputting 6. So this covers the case where there's 2 customers that have the same wealth. This is example 2. It's outputting 10. This one is outputting 17 as expected. I don't anticipate there being any other edge cases, so let's go ahead and submit this. And it's accepted. Okay. And then one last thing, just to clean this up a little bit, we can actually, there's the shorthand that we can do. It's a plus equals. So you can see here that it takes the value from the right of the operator and it adds it to the variable on the left when we use this syntax. So if I go back here, I can just clean this up. I think it's kind of a preference thing. So if we wanted to just do plus equal, it's going to take the right side and it's going to add it to the left side. So this will do the same thing that it was doing before. And just to make sure, I'll go ahead and just make sure that I didn't completely mess everything up. Submit it again. And there we go. It beats 50% of other submissions. So, not bad. Well, thank you. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, want to reach out, say hi, tell me I'm a weirdo, do it. Thank you so much. Until next time.